All right, so we are currently working on the Coyote swap. Again, taking a little bit of a break on the Subaru. So there you can see where the PCM is. So the issue that we're dealing with right now is the oil pan is mighty close to the steering rack. So this is a Gen 3 in an Sn95 with an, I believe it's a UPR K-member kit. He wanted to keep his K-member, so we ran with it. So the issue is that sitting on the motor mounts, it is too low and the oil pan contacts the K-member. So we did try using some motor mount spacers, but as you can see, you don't get a whole, and it kind of just creates more issues than what it solves. So how we are going to rectify this issue is, yes, we could do the K-member spacers and space the K-member lower, but instead of doing that, we're going to go ahead and go with the next best option. All right, and this is what we're going to go ahead and replace it with. So this is from Power by the Hour. Honestly, the GOATs when it comes to anything Coyote swap. This is a steel 8-quart pan, I believe. I believe it's 8 quarts. I think the plastic one is about 10, which is insane. It's just, honestly, we don't need that much oil. So it does come with all the hardware. We will have to, do a little bit of a change some bolts on the mains and add a spacer, but that is fine. And it comes with a custom pickup tube. So you do need this very specific pickup tube just because the Gen 3 oil pumps are different. So you can't just run a regular Coyote pickup tube. You need this specific one. So this specific kit, it's all bundled together perfectly. You shouldn't need anything other than what's in this box, and it should essentially bolt up just like factory. So I'll go ahead and get a little bar that goes over the engine so I can support the engine, get the engine plate on there, and drop the K-member, and I will show you the differences between the two oil pans. Okay, and here we have the two oil pans side by side. This one, of course, made out of plastic, super chunky. And this one, made out of stamped sheet metal. It's a lot thinner, a lot more sleek. This one, I honestly don't know why they made it out of plastic, but it is pretty thick, pretty robust. People have done tests with them. You're not going to crack it. You're going to have to pretty much do the same amount of damage you would cause this, it would take to break this. But the key difference between these two are not only the capacity, this one holds more oil than this one, but the windage tray is separate, and so is the pickup tube. So on the Gen 3s, this is your issue right here. The size of this hole on the oil pump is a lot larger than on Gen 1, Gen 2s. So Gen 1, Gen 2s will, you can cross them, but not with the Gen 3. So that's why you need the specific pickup tube that Power by the Hour has that will match the size of the oil pump. Also in Gen 1, Gen 2s, the pickup is also bolted to the oil pump. On Gen 3s, it is not. Hence why you have 2 studs versus 1, I believe, on the Gen 1, Gen 2s. Don't quote me on that. It's been a minute since I've popped one of these off. So one thing I did notice is that I did drain this engine, and it looks like it kind of sits, come on, focus you, just below the drain hole. So if your oil pan isn't tilted back, you might not be getting every single last drop. You might be leaving a little bit on the table just due to the nature of how the pickup is made. So there you can just see the bottom of the pickup, just how wide it is and where it gets all its oil. I don't know how well it is against oil starvation. Here, I'm going to try and tilt it as much as I can without spilling. But that's your entire pickup right there. So, if you're running low on oil like these Coyote stock guys like to, and you launch the car, do a wheelie, it might flow back away from the pickup. But because you have so much oil in this thing, I don't think that's ever going to be really an issue unless you're some hardcore track guy. But alright, so here's the windage tray, and here is the sump area. know, you can imagine cornering and stuff like that. It looks like it has a little bit of dust, so I'm gonna go ahead and clean this out with some brake cleaner and really flush it out as well as I can so we don't have anything in there. We will be doing like a 100-mile oil change on this engine just to, I always like doing that because I'd rather catch something early than late. So on this one, it has a nice sump area and then of course a good drain towards the drain hole. Which honestly I think I like this style way better than the Gen 3. But it's fine, 10 quarts. It's such a minuscule amount of oil that may get trapped in there, especially because your VCT solenoids, you know, the little lifters, or my apologies, the little lash adjusters, not lifters, because we don't have any of those. The little lash adjusters for the rockers, those are full of oil. You know, there's oil everywhere, so you will have a little bit of residual old oil whenever you do your oil changes. But all right, let's go ahead, change some bolts, and get the pickup installed, and I'll show you how that looks under the car without it falling on my head. All right, and this is what the business end looks like. So what we did was we swapped out that stud and that stud. So on the second main inner in line with the pickup, and then on the opposite side, second to last main on the center side on the opposite end. Also, take note, there is a gasket for the oil pump. Do not lose that. That is Gen 3 specific, and it has to go back on. So that's how your pickup will seal to the pump. So we installed the new studs, torqued them to 48 pound-feet plus 90 degrees. So all I did was just put, let's see if you can see right there. Yep, a little white dot, and it helped me just align it. So start over here, tightened it, 90 degrees, it's torqued. Everything else is already torqued, so if it's not 100% perfect, I don't think it'll really matter. But the next order of business is grab this little spacer, thread it on, and this will go to 18 pound-feet, I believe. So want to make sure that guy's nice and tight so it does not fall out in your oil pan. All right, with that guy installed, our next order of business, I'm going to do off camera just because it's kind of a pain trying to record and do it with one hand, is apply 4 little drops of silicone at each corner where the front timing cover meets the block and where the rear main seal cover meets the block. So you can see I kind of already cleaned it off. I'll just finish cleaning the rest of it, hit it with a little bit of brake clean so there's no oil on the surface. So I have the best adhering of the silicone onto the block. And then we will install the windage tray that's been modified by Powered by the Hour to accept this pickup. And then install the pickup tube, and then hopefully that holds it just long enough for me to install the pan. So let me knock that out real quick. All right, so I used a little bit of help with some cross bolts to hold the gasket up, and this is how it should look once fully installed. Now after that, install your oil pan. Be very careful not to shift this gasket too much because we still do have that RTV in those little spots. That way you don't kind of mess up the RTV. So let's install the oil pan, get this thing back on the K member and back on the ground. Alrighty, and there she is, fully installed. We have a ton of clearance. We are not running crazy amounts of spacers no more. So the engine still has to drop just a smidge more. It's still being held up by up top, but we're all tightened on those bolts. The steering shaft, it now has plenty of clearance. Before, the steering shaft was rubbing up against one of the headers, and it was just being a giant pain to even fully seat onto the steering rack. So massive difference when you actually run the correct parts. And then of course we got tons of clearance underneath the oil pan. It will drop just a smidge more, but this is the exact same oil pan on my setup and pretty much everyone's setup. This is how pretty much everyone runs it. And for motor mounts, if anyone's curious, these are just some stock ass motor mounts. Nothing fancy, straight from the auto parts store. Gotta get a washer on that guy. But nothing fancy. This is going to be a very smooth running car We don't need any harsh NVH from poly or solid motor mounts. Maybe in the future we'll upgrade to poly if these prove to be too soft. But for now, we're going to go ahead and just run a stock motor mount. You know, again, keep the budget low. We don't have to splurge out on every single thing. Sometimes a stock part works. Case in point, the oil pan. It is a stock part. It's just a different stock part. But you don't always have to have the best item of every single thing possible. Just get the correct parts. Get the car running. Get it tested. And then there you can upgrade like little small things that will nickel and dime you eventually. So let's go up top, loosen it up, and set it back down and fully tighten down those motor mounts. So if you're curious how I was holding it up, I was just using an engine plate. This one's made by a 3-letter company. I don't 100% recommend this plate. I mean, it works, don't get me wrong. Just because I've used different ones in the past, I really like the one that has the multiple rings in the center just because it gives you multiple attachment points, especially when installing the engine. So this is how I installed it. You can get this bar from Harbor Freight. I just used the chain, just essentially just loosen that guy. It'll come with 2 if you need multiple pickup points, but you know, it's right on the strut towers. It'll hold the engine up all day long just fine. It's just a hunk of steel. You're not going to break it unless you really mess something up. So this tool comes in handy. So this is one of those things where having the right tool definitely speeds up the process, because I've only been in here maybe like about an hour and really taking my time to really make sure everything underneath is super clean, and it's going to be the last time I'm underneath there. So I'm trying to do my best to just make it as simple as possible. So if there's any servicing in the future, it's really easy to service. If we got to modify anything, it's really easy to modify, and there's not a whole lot of crazy customized work that we got to deal with. So I think I'm gonna call it a day here on the video. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull this plate back off, put the intake manifold back on, and then on the next video I will continue with the fuel system. So catch you later.